Chapter 21 of The Ghosts of Tupelo Landing. And this one is called Auga, which will become clearer as we go along. We got the break we needed on Harm's case at dark the next Friday night. My phone jangled. Molo Bo, detective on call, I said. Felonies and misdemeanors are our pleasure. How may we assist you? Red's getting ready to make his move, Harm whispered. How long have we got? An hour, max. He waits until I start my homework and slips out. Hurry. Harm does homework on Friday night? Weird. I hung up and dialed Dale's number. Busy. I tied my sneakers, found my jacket, and dialed again. Busy. I crammed a flashlight and a clue pad in my bag. Still busy. I rushed to the cafe, stuffed a takeout bag with scraps, and headed for Dale's. Come in, Mo, Miss Rose called, placing her phone in its cradle. That explained the busy signal. Miss Rose can talk a post-deaf when she's lonely, which Miss Lana says is most of the time, now that the idea of Mr. Macon is gone. Hey, Miss Rose, you talking to your sister again? I hope her tomatoes are still producing and that you're not too lonely. Miss Lana says letting go of even a trace of somebody is hard. She laughed. I wasn't talking with my sister. The tomatoes are rolling in, even this late in the season. I'm not too lonely, and Lana's right, she said. It's hard. If you're looking for Dale, he's in his room. The sound of Dale's guitar wandered through the house like smoke across still water. I tiptoed to his open door and found him sitting by Sir Isaac Newton's terrarium, his back to the door. He strummed the lullaby and good night Miss Lana sings to me when I dream wrong. But when he started singing, the words came out pure Dale, a terrifying mix of science and love. Lullaby, little newt, you are warty and look cute. You're amphibian, I'm not. You're cold-blooded and I'm hot. Born with gills, you now breathe air. I got thumbs and good hair. Darwin says we're still kin. Glad I ain't got your skin. Dale laid his guitar down. Sweet dreams, Newton, he whispered, and turned out the terrarium light. It's hard to know what to say when your best friend serenades an amphibian. On one hand, Miss Lana likes me to be sensitive. On the other hand, the Colonel says most situations don't require my input. Grab your flashlight, Dale, I said. Mr. Red's on the prowl. We blasted past Miss Rose with a promise not to miss Dale's curfew. A little later, we ditched our bikes and crept across Mr. Red's barnyard. An owl hoo-hooed above us and flapped heavy and awkward as a flying encyclopedia to a nearby tree. I don't see why we have to come over here now, Dale whispered. Why don't we wait until Mr. Red checks his still in the daytime? He's a moonshiner, not a sunshiner, I said. He works nights. Besides, we're in school in the daytime. School, he muttered. Why don't they have it when it's too dark for anything else? We froze as something, or someone, rustled behind us. I held my breath as it rustled closer, nearer. Queen Elizabeth jammed her nose between us and wedged her way in head first. I told you to stay with Mama, Dale scolded. Shh, I said, peering at the house. You'll wake Mr. Red's dogs. Too late. 3 rib-skinny dogs stared through the tall fence. A fourth slunk from under a dense thicket in the center of their pen. The pen's sharp odor rose into the night. Nice dogs, Dale whispered. Good dogs. Sit. They growled. I looked at the house. 2 figures moved around in the kitchen, silhouetted in the lamplight. They're finishing supper, I whispered. Wish I was, Dale said. He sniffed the air. What's in that takeout bag? I'm starving. Dale's like a newborn. He likes to eat every 3 hours. Table scraps, I said. Harm left the kitchen, and the light came on in his room. The back door swung open. Mr. Red walked to the shed, grabbed a shovel, and reached in his pocket. Keys. The truck, I told Dale. Hurry, I whispered, flinging the takeout bag over the fence. The dogs hurled themselves on the food, and we darted to the driveway. Brilliant, Dale murmured, grabbing Queen Elizabeth and scrambling into the back of the truck. I rolled across the open tailgate and snagged a corner of a tarp. "Liz," Dale hissed, grabbing for her as she squirted out of his arms. She shot into the shadows as Red Baker ambled toward us, a shovel over his shoulder. "Let her go," I whispered, shoving Dale under the tarp and diving in beside him. Mr. Red swung the shovel into the truck beside us. He slammed the cab door, and the old truck shuddered to life. "Good," I whispered. "Surveillance is going according to plan." "Stop it," he said, his voice accusing. "We're under a smelly old tarp in the back of a truck going who knows where with a mean old man, and Queen Elizabeth is AWOL. That means she's, away without permission. You ain't got a plan, and I know it." Undercover work can make Dale irritable. We bounced down a rutted path in silence. The truck swerved, and brambles scraped their sharp green fingers down the side of the truck. "We should be on the blacktop by now," Dale whispered as the truck swerved, slamming us against the cabin. "We must be going the other way, toward the inn." "Nellie's house," Dale said, covering his head with his arm. "Great." The truck hit a hole, throwing us into the air and jolting us down hard. Again, brambles squeaked along the truck's panels. Finally, the brakes squealed and we lurched to a halt. "Shh," I whispered. The truck door slammed, and Mr. Red crunched to the side of the truck. I held my breath as he fumbled with the tarp. "The shovel." I nudged it toward him with my foot. He brushed my shoe as he grabbed it. His footsteps faded away. "Come on," I whispered. We eased out from under the tarp and slipped off the tailgate smooth as water over a dam. "He's over there," I said, pointing. Mr. Red held the shovel by his side. He looked right and left the way the colonel does when he's lining up on something. I looked behind me. Through the trees, I could just make out the glint of moonlight tiptoeing on the inn's roofline. Mr. Red peered over his shoulder, tugged something out of his pocket, and studied it a moment. He started through the forest, stopping, long and careful, and mumbling under his breath. "What's he doing?" Dale whispered. "Counting," I guessed. Mr. Red stopped, made a neat turn, and took off again. We crept through the moonlight-silvered trees and settled behind a blackberry thicket. "Where are we?" Dale asked, looking round. "Good question." "Somewhere between the spring house and town, maybe." "The inn's behind us. The cemetery would be over there," I said, pointing. Dale yanked my hand down. "Don't point," he said. "It bothers people." Mr. Red tipped the shovel into the ground and jumped on it, driving it into the earth. "What's he doing?" I whispered. "Digging. With a shovel." Why do I even ask? Mr. Red grunted softly as he worked, lifting shovel after shovel of soil and heaving it to one side. Finally, the rough shriek of metal against metal. He knelt and reached into the earth. "Flashlights, now," I whispered, and we clicked on our lights. Mr. Red looked up like an animal snared. "Who's there?" he asked, scrambling to his feet, a dirty mason jar in his hands. "Desperado Detective Agency, Moe and Dale, at your service." He shielded his eyes. "Turn those blasted things off, you're blinding me." Dale clicked his light off, and I tilted mine to the ground. "Hey, Mr. Red," Dale said. "Nice night for digging. What did you find?" "None of your business," he said. "Moonshine, maybe?" I guessed. "I wish you'd tell us," Dale said, "because this doesn't look good, you digging up things on somebody else's land." "I take care of my own. That's all you need to know," he said, settling the jar in the crook of his arm. "Get lost." "We already are," Dale said, very even. A tree frog chirped. "This land ain't yours," I added. "What's in that jar?" Dale grabbed my arm. "Moe," he whispered. "Not now," I told him. "I'm questioning a suspect." "Moe," Dale said, pointing through the forest. "Look." "What?" I peered through the trees. In the distance, a set of headlights charged toward us. "Is there a path through here?" I asked, looking at Mr. Red. "Maybe I'm turned around." "Path? There's no path. Not anymore," Red Baker said, staring at the lights. No, it can't be. Those are headlights, Dale said. The hair on my arms stood up and my fingers tingled. That car's driving right through those trees, I said. The headlights zoomed toward us like trees didn't exist. The car roared closer, lights and engine blaring, brighter and brighter, louder and louder. Move! Dale cried. Red Baker dropped his shovel and ran. My feet felt rooted as pines. Auga! Move! Dale shouted, shoving me hard. I slammed onto the forest floor and rolled, briars ripping at my skin. Dale somersaulted past. The cars thundered so near, I smelled its exhaust. Dale jumped up. That's a Model T, he said, staring at the tail lights. Another horn blared as a second car zoomed by. And an old Duesenberg. He looked at me. Ghost cars. Ghost cars? I just hope they don't turn around. My heart pounded. We stood close, watching the lights disappear. The engine's roar faded away, swallowed by the uneven song of tree frogs. I peered into the dark. Mr. Red, you okay? No answer. Mr. Baker? I hope you ain't run over by ghosts, Dale whispered, slapping at a mosquito. That would be hard to explain at the emergency room. Mr. Red! A truck door slammed somewhere distant. Son of a gun, Dale said as Mr. Red's headlights flared and his truck choked to life. He's leaving us! His truck roared away, and we stood alone in the forest. And that's the end of chapter 21.